So why is Nigeria treating her women poorly, and what impact does this have on our development?
To discuss these issues, I'm very pleased to be joined in the studio by the Senate Minority Leader, distinguished Abiodun Olojimi of the PDP. Thank you, ma'am, for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Distinguished Senator Binta Masi Garba of the APC is also here. Thank you, ma'am, for joining us.
It's my pleasure.
Adora Onyechere, who is a journalist and has recently been elected to represent Action Alliance in the upcoming national elections for the National Assembly in Imo State, is also on this panel. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
And Mufuliat Fijabi, who is the CEO of the Nigerian Women Trust Fund, is also here with us. Thank you so much for coming.
For having me.
Now, if I may actually start with you, Mufuliat, why should anybody care about female participation in politics?
Female participation is very important because we constitute almost half of Nigeria's population. And for any country to successfully run any developmental process, that almost half of the population must be on board. So women are important. They're not asking for favors, but they're asking for the space that is needed for them to actively contribute to the governance process of Nigeria.
Let me go to the Senate Minority Leader. When you hear it put so simply, it seems like a straightforward matter. Is this a conversation that your party, for example, has when it comes to the issue of women?
Thank you very much. I think just to buttress what she said earlier, when you have women in governance, it makes for better inclusion. It makes for an egalitarian society, and it makes the system more democratic because you'll have another side of the story. And you were talking about the party. Gender mainstreaming does not know party. It is not party specific. We need to take it as a holistic discourse. The truth is, the best we have had in the country of women participation was when all the parties came together earlier on and made a commitment to women inclusion in governance. We came together, it was across party lines, and all of us made a commitment that we're going to increase female participation. That is the only time we had so many women in elective positions and appointive positions. But since the parties decided to kind of look away because we've not been able to rally support since that ended, we've been lacking, like it was said in the video we just watched.
Okay, let me ask Senator Binta, what is the negative outcome of not having women included in politics at the highest level and in governance?
Well, thank you very much. I think I'll follow in line of the two speakers that have mentioned. There are negative aspect of it. A woman understands the problem of a woman, unlike the men. And when you talk about governance or legislation that will affect the lives of women in a positive direction, you need women of like minds that understand. We'll talk about mortality rates, for instance, the girl-child educations that have been, or the violence against women and even the vulnerable groups. Who are the people that understand this better? They are the women. And once if we don't have more women in parliament or participating in politics, definitely we will not have a good legislations that will bring about a positive dimension in the life of the vulnerable groups, i.e., we talked about issue of violence today. The Constitution, obviously, is gender-based. It does not discriminate about gender. But when you look at the penal code and the criminal code, obviously, the penal code has gender issue on that. And when a girl is being violated and will not allow her to have her fundamental right to education, obviously she has been violated. And until we women are brought to the border to understand that we need to legislate, not for us as women, but for our children, and to give them a hope for tomorrow. So one of those things is that if women are not being brought to the mainstreaming of political activities like other countries, obviously the issue of women being relegated and not given the voice to bring about a change in the lives of those vulnerable groups will not be there.
Okay, so Adora, participation is critical for the 50% or so of the population, but does the participation of women also impact beyond them? So in other words, beyond the gender itself.
Absolutely. I think I would agree with what Senator Binta has just said. We talk about the population of Nigeria. In fact, the whole world, half its population are women. And Africa has a population of 1.2 billion and over, and half of it is women. Now, the political consequence of that is that these women who are not included in politics and participation also are not given the platform to make decisions and policy for women. And I think that also extends to both the man and the woman and the child in the society. When there is no policy preference, in the legislature that looks at issues for women, the child will suffer. The man also has, a problem in his hands because he has more room to be able to say, for the fact that, women are not involved in leadership, he's the one wearing the crown. But at the end of the day, I believe two things. I believe first that when a woman has the ability to be involved in legislature, there is an ability for the women at the legislative level to prepare policies that are gender sensitive. And in other words, it affects the general populace of the population.
I'd like to actually very early on bring members of the audience in. And I wonder, is there anyone who sort of feels strongly about the impact of gender imbalance in politics that wants to quickly say a few words, perhaps? Okay, the lady with the red, you don't need to stand up, please. Just tell us who you are and make your point.
I am Honorable Augusta Chika Ude.
Say that again, please, because you started speaking before you got the mic.
I am Honorable Augusta Chikude, member Ebonyi State House of Assembly. And when we talk about women inclusion in politics, we've not been treated fairly. In fact, we have facts and figures about this. Our numbers are reducing instead of increasing, is decreasing. And it calls for concern. I think we are not being proactive enough. It's time for women to rise. I will use some of the facts I have here.
Okay.
I experienced...
Before you start your statistics, and I promise I'll get you to run your statistics, I have to go for a break. This is the problem with live TV. Don't go away.